Emily Thompson stood at the edge of the pier, her eyes fixed on the grey, churning waves of the Cornwall coastline. The cold morning wind whipped against her face, carrying the salty smell of the sea and the weight of her recent troubles. At 28, she had never imagined life would be this challenging. Just 3 months ago, she had been working at the local fishing company, a job she had inherited from her family's generations of maritime workers. But then came the sudden closure, leaving her and dozens of other local workers without employment. The small coastal town of Penzance seemed to grow smaller and more suffocating with each passing day. Her father, Robert, sat at home, battling a persistent illness that required constant medical attention. The medical bills were mounting, and their savings were quickly disappearing. Emily knew she had to do something, but opportunities were scarce in their tight-knit community. Every morning, she would walk along the pier, her worn-out boots leaving soft imprints in the damp sand. She would watch the fishing boats return, hoping to spot a chance for work or a glimmer of hope. The fishermen, most of whom had known her family for years, would offer sympathetic smiles, but no job opportunities. Robert, once a strong and vibrant fisherman himself, now spent most of his days in a worn armchair by the window. His weathered hands, once capable of handling the roughest seas, now trembled when he tried to hold a cup of tea. Emily would help him, carefully supporting the cup, her heart breaking a little more each day. Their small cottage, passed down through generations, was now a reminder of their dwindling hope. Paint was peeling from the walls and the wooden floors creaked with every step. They couldn't afford repairs, and Emily worried about how they would make it through the coming winter. She had tried everything, applying for jobs in town, looking for online work, even considering moving to a larger city. But her commitment to her father and their community kept her anchored to Penzance. Each rejection letter felt like another wave crashing against their already fragile hopes. At night, Emily would sit by her father's bedside, reading old maritime books and listening to his stories of past adventures. These moments were their escape from the harsh reality of their situation. Robert would talk about the times when fishing was a thriving profession, when their family could support themselves comfortably. "We'll get through this," Emily would whisper, her voice a mixture of determination and uncertainty. She wasn't sure if she was trying to convince her father or herself. The local community center had started offering free workshops on job skills and entrepreneurship. Emily began attending these sessions, determined to find a way forward. She learned about digital skills, basic accounting, and how to create a small business plan. Her mother had passed away years ago, leaving Emily as the sole caretaker of her father. The responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders, but she was not one to give up easily. Her family had always been known for their resilience, their ability to weather the toughest storms. One particularly challenging morning, as she walked back from another unsuccessful job hunt, Emily noticed an old fishing net hanging in a shop window. It was tangled and worn, much like her current situation. But something about its resilience caught her eye. Despite being torn and weathered, it still held the potential to be mended and used again. That image stuck with her. She realized that, like that fishing net, she too could be repaired, could find a new purpose. Her current situation was not the end of her story, but merely a challenging chapter. As the sun began to set over the Cornwall coastline, casting a warm orange glow over the grey waters, Emily felt a small spark of hope. She didn't know exactly how, but she was determined to find a way to support her father, to keep their family's legacy alive, and to create a better future. The sea continued its endless rhythm, waves crashing against the pier, a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, was always moving, always changing, and Emily was ready to ride those waves, no matter how challenging they might be. The rain was relentless that afternoon, drumming against the cobblestone streets of Penzance. Emily pulled her worn coat tighter, struggling with a bag of groceries that threatened to slip from her wet hands. The wind pushed against her, making each step a battle. Jack Harris watched from the doorway of his small boat repair shop. He was an old fisherman, weathered by years of sea and sun, with hands that told stories of countless maritime adventures. Emily had known him since childhood. He had been a close friend of her grandfather, and had watched her grow up. "Need a hand?" he called out, stepping into the rain. Emily looked up, grateful for the help. Jack took the heavy grocery bag, his strong hands easily managing the weight that had been causing her to struggle. They walked together to her cottage, the rain creating a steady rhythm around them. Inside, Robert was dozing in his favorite chair. Jack placed the groceries on the kitchen counter, his eyes taking in the worn furniture and the signs of their financial struggle. He had heard about Emily losing her job at the fishing company and knew how hard times had been for the Thompson family. "How are you managing?" Jack asked, his voice gentle and concerned. Emily tried to put on a brave face. "We're getting by," she said, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. Jack had been running his boat repair shop for over 40 years. It was a small business, passed down from his father, and he had survived countless economic challenges. He saw something familiar in Emily, the same determination that had kept his own family going through tough times. "The Maritime Museum is looking for someone to help with their administrative work," he mentioned casually. "Heard they need someone who understands local fishing history." Emily's eyes brightened. The Maritime Museum was a respected local institution dedicated to preserving the area's rich maritime heritage. It wasn't a fishing job, but it was connected to the world she knew and loved. Jack continued, "They need someone who can organize archives, help with exhibitions, and understand the local fishing community's history. Sounds like it might be perfect for you." That evening, Emily couldn't sleep. The possibility of the museum job filled her with a mix of hope and nervous excitement. She remembered the stories her grandfather used to tell, tales of brave fishermen, of storms weathered, of communities that survived against all odds. The next morning she prepared carefully. She put on her best clothes, a simple blue sweater and her only good pair of trousers. Her father helped her practice her introduction, his eyes filled with pride and hope. "Remember," Robert told her, "our family has always been about hard work and respect. Show them who you are." At the museum, Emily met Margaret Williams, the head curator. Margaret was a stern but kind woman in her early 50s who had dedicated her life to preserving local maritime history. She listened carefully as Emily explained her background, her connection to the fishing community, and her passion for local history. To Emily's surprise, Margaret was impressed. She appreciated Emily's genuine knowledge and her deep connection to the local maritime community. What started as a simple job inquiry turned into a promising opportunity. "We could use someone like you," Margaret said, a rare smile crossing her face. "Someone who understands the heart of our community." Jack's unexpected intervention had opened a door Emily never thought possible. It wasn't just a job, it was a chance to preserve her community's history, to honor her family's legacy. As she walked home that day, the rain had stopped. A small ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over Penzance. Emily felt something she hadn't felt in months: hope. Sometimes life's most important connections come when we least expect them. A chance encounter, a kind word, a moment of unexpected support. These are the things that can change everything. The sea continued to beat against the rocky Cornwall coastline, a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, was full of unexpected currents and surprising journeys. The Maritime Museum was nothing like Emily had imagined. Dusty shelves filled with old logbooks, faded photographs, and maritime artifacts surrounded her. Her days became a delicate dance of organizing historical documents, preparing exhibitions, and learning the intricate stories of generations of local fishermen. Margaret was a demanding boss. She expected precision, passion, and dedication. Emily's first weeks were challenging. She would arrive early before the museum opened and often leave long after everyone else had gone home. Her fingers would be stained with dust and old ink, her back aching from hours of careful document sorting. Robert's medical bills continued to mount. Each month was a financial struggle. Emily would sit at the kitchen table late at night, calculator in hand, trying to make sense of their shrinking finances. Her museum salary was modest, but it was a lifeline they desperately needed. One particularly challenging week, the museum was preparing a special exhibition about the local fishing community's history during World War II. Emily discovered a collection of old letters from fishermen who had become war heroes, risking their lives to support military operations. Their stories of courage began to inspire her. Her father's health was becoming a constant worry. Some mornings he could barely get out of bed. Emily would help him with his medication, prepare his meals, and then rush to the museum. She was exhausting herself, but she refused to give up. Jack would sometimes stop by the museum, bringing her homemade sandwiches and words of encouragement. "Your grandfather would be proud," he would say, watching her carefully organize a new maritime display. The exhibition was Emily's first major project. She worked tirelessly, researching every detail, ensuring that the stories of local fishermen were told with respect and accuracy. Margaret watched her closely, initially skeptical, but gradually becoming impressed by her dedication. Nights became a blur of research and care. Emily would read to her father about the maritime histories she was discovering, sharing stories of local heroes. Robert would listen, his eyes bright with pride and memory. These moments became their special time. Together, financial pressure was constant. Emily took on extra work, sometimes helping Jack in his boat repair shop during her free hours. She learned basic repair skills, adding to her growing list of abilities. Her hands, once soft, became calloused and strong. The museum began to recognize her value. Margaret started giving her more responsibilities, trusting her with more complex historical research. Emily discovered she had a talent for storytelling, for bringing historical documents to life. One evening, while sorting through an old collection of maritime photographs, Emily found a series of images that told a powerful story of community, resilience, fishermen supporting each other during tough times, families surviving through impossible challenges. She saw her own family's story reflected in these images. Her father's medical treatments were expensive. Emily started a small savings plan, cutting every possible expense. She learned to make clothes, to cook economically, to find creative solutions to their financial challenges. The museum became more than just a workplace. It became a sanctuary of hope. Each artifact, each document told a story of survival, of community, of human resilience. Emily began to see her own struggles as part of a larger narrative of human endurance. Margaret noticed the change in Emily. What had started as a simple administrative job was becoming a passionate commitment to preserving local history. Emily wasn't just organizing documents. She was becoming a storyteller, a keeper of community memories. During one particularly difficult month, when medical bills seemed overwhelming, Emily found strength in the stories she was preserving. The fishermen in the photographs had faced wars, economic challenges, personal losses, and they had survived. Her father would watch her work, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and concern. "You're stronger than you know," he would tell her, his voice soft but filled with conviction. As winter approached, Emily realized she was no longer just surviving. She was building something, for herself, for her father, for her community. The challenges were real, but so was her determination. The sea outside continued its endless rhythm, a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, was about moving forward, about resilience, about hope. The local Heritage Foundation's announcement came on a cold December morning. Emily spotted the poster at the community center, her heart racing as she read the details of the grant competition. They were looking for projects that would preserve local community history, exactly the kind of work she had been doing at the museum. Margaret encouraged her to apply. "Your research is important," she said, reviewing Emily's draft proposal. "These stories matter." Emily worked tirelessly on the application. She spent weeks gathering documents, writing her proposal, and collecting stories from local fishermen. Jack helped her, sharing old photographs and personal accounts from the maritime community. Her father would sit nearby, offering advice and encouragement. The proposal was a comprehensive look at the local fishing community's history. It wasn't just about preserving old documents. It was about telling the stories of real people, of families who had survived generations of challenges. Emily included personal stories, historical research, and a plan for creating a digital archive that could be shared with future generations. Nights became a blur of writing and research. Emily, would work after her museum hours, typing carefully, ensuring every detail was perfect. Her father would bring her cups of tea, watching her with pride and concern. The competition was tough. Dozens of local organizations and individuals were applying for the limited grant funding. Emily knew her chances were slim, but she refused to give up. When the day of the announcement arrived, Emily could barely breathe. She sat in the community center, surrounded by local historians, community leaders, and other applicants. Her hands were shaking, her heart racing. Margaret sat beside her, offering silent support. Jack was there too, his weathered hands clasped tightly in anticipation. The Foundation's committee chair took the stage. He began reading the names of the grant recipients. Each announcement met with applause and excitement. Emily listened carefully, her hopes rising and falling with each name. And then she heard it, her name. The world seemed to stop for a moment. Tears filled her eyes as she realized what this meant. Not just for her, but for her father. For the museum, for the entire community. The grant would help preserve their maritime history and provide much-needed financial support. Her father hugged her when she returned home, his eyes filled with tears of joy. "Your grandfather would be so proud," he whispered. The grant was more than just money. It was recognition of the importance of their community's history. Emily would be able to create a digital archive of maritime stories, ensuring that future generations would understand the challenges and triumphs of local fishermen. Jack helped her plan the next steps. Together, they began collecting more stories, more photographs, more evidence of the community's rich maritime heritage. The museum became a hub of excitement and hope. Emily's work caught the attention of local media. A small feature in the local newspaper shared her story, a young woman preserving her community's history, caring for her father, overcoming financial challenges. The money from the grant helped with her father's medical treatments. It allowed her to make necessary repairs to their small cottage. But more importantly, it gave her a sense of purpose, of hope. Margaret saw a transformation in Emily. She was no longer just an administrative worker. She was becoming a true historian, a storyteller, a preserver of community memory. The Maritime Museum began to change. Emily's project brought new life to the old exhibits. Visitors started coming from further away, interested in the authentic personal stories of local maritime history. Her father's health began to improve. The financial pressure eased, and they could finally breathe a little easier. Emily continued her work, balancing her museum job with her new preservation project. One evening, as the sun set over the Cornwall coastline, Emily realized how far she had come. The challenges hadn't disappeared, but she had found a way to transform them into something beautiful, something meaningful. The sea continued its endless rhythm outside, a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, was about resilience, about hope, about moving forward. The digital archive became Emily's greatest achievement. What started as a small project grew into something much larger, a living history of the Cornwall maritime community. She created a website where families could share their stories, upload old photographs, and connect with their maritime heritage. Robert's health improved gradually. The financial stability from the grant and Emily's continued work at the museum allowed them to afford better medical treatments. He became her greatest supporter, helping her organize stories and recall historical details from his own memories. Jack became a mentor and close friend. He introduced Emily to other older fishermen who were eager to share their stories. They would gather at his boat repair shop, sharing cups of tea and memories that had been forgotten for decades. Emily carefully recorded each story, understanding the importance of preserving these personal histories. The community program she started became something special. It began with monthly meetings at the local community center, where families of fishermen would come together to share their experiences. Emily created a supportive network that helped people connect, share resources, and support each other through difficult times. Margaret recognized Emily's potential and began giving her more responsibilities at the museum. She was no longer just an administrative worker, but was becoming a respected local historian. Her passion and dedication had transformed her initial job into a meaningful career. Financial challenges didn't disappear completely, but they became more manageable. Emily learned to budget carefully, to find creative solutions to problems. She taught workshops on financial planning for local families, sharing the skills she had learned during her most challenging times. The digital archive caught the attention of national heritage organizations. Emily began receiving invitations to speak at conferences, sharing her approach to community history preservation. Her work was recognized as innovative and important. Her father watched her growth with immense pride. The once struggling daughter had become a respected community leader. Their small cottage, once a symbol of their financial struggles, now felt like a home filled with hope and possibility. Jack continued to be a source of support and wisdom. He would often remind Emily of her grandfather's legacy, telling her how proud he would be of her achievements. Their friendship became one of the most important relationships in her life. The community program expanded. They began helping families in various ways, providing support for medical expenses, creating job training programs, and offering counseling services. Emily had created something bigger than herself, a true community support network. Local schools started using her digital archive as a teaching resource. Students could now explore the rich maritime history of their community, understanding the challenges and triumphs of previous generations. Emily became a bridge between past and present. Her work wasn't just about preserving history, it was about healing communities. She helped families reconnect, share their stories, and find strength in their shared experiences. The maritime community became stronger and more connected because of her efforts. Robert's stories became a crucial part of the archive. He would sit with Emily, sharing memories of his years as a fisherman, providing insights that no official document could capture. These personal narratives became the heart of her preservation work. As years passed, Emily's reputation grew. She was invited to work on national heritage projects, always keeping her focus on local, personal stories. She never forgot the challenges that had brought her to this point. The small cottage by the sea remained their home, but now it was filled with hope, with possibility, with the sounds of success and connection. Emily had transformed their struggle into something beautiful and meaningful. She would often stand by the window, looking out at the sea that had defined her family's life for generations. The waves continued their endless rhythm, a reminder of life's constant movement and potential for change. Jack would sometimes visit, bringing fresh fish and stories. They would sit together, sharing memories and hope, watching the sun set over the Cornwall coastline. Emily realized that her journey wasn't just about survival. It was about creating something larger than herself, a community connected by stories, by history, by shared experiences. As the evening light filled the room, Emily understood that hope wasn't something that happened to you. It was something you created, one story at a time. The sea outside continued its eternal dance, a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, was about resilience, about connection, about moving forward.